Hello. This is a video wherein I'm going to be discussing why Soulist Anti-Realism is the only cure for today's toxic political divide. I would say claim your spiritual freedom and escape the chaos of 2026 and onward. Um, yeah. The fractured reality of the 2026 midterm election. The current hyper-politicized landscape has moved beyond policy disagreements into fundamental dehumanization and delegitimization of one another's humanity and subjective experience, crossing into a politically charged kind of solipsism, wherein the nature of the opposition's reality is denied. I personally find this to be a dangerous and inherently illegitimate perspective that ultimately leads to becoming an oppressor's oppressor, engaging in the soullessness of being an oppressive person. Sorry, that was a mistake, and the mental strain slash horrors that come along with it. This situation people find themselves in is something that denies the validity of opposing viewpoints and is inherently closed-minded as well as zealous in nature with relatively little positives, besides maybe setting standards for the paradox of tolerance, which is not necessary, mind you. Um, you can easily set standards for the paradox of tolerance without engaging in the delegitimization of the opposition's humanity and perspective as a entity. You don't have to be solipsistic in part or in fullness in order to have a stance on the tolerance issue. How tolerant is too tolerant? Well, I'm setting a clear line in stone that is, well, in digital media more accurately, that is discussing the necessity of respecting individual human rights as well as cultural rights, um, religious rights, political rights, the right to life as a whole, humanism as a this is a subset of humanism essentially. Yeah, a paradoxical breaking point: historical atrocities and proposed solutions. There's a breaking point that has always been crossed and yet is yet to be crossed paradoxically. One could illustrate the Shoah slash Holocaust, as well as anti-Semitic pogroms throughout history, migration and travel bans on Muslim countries, massacres of Christians, politicide of communists, as well as communist jailing of dissenters. Both it goes both ways. Um, Wars, and more commonly personal attacks that avoid dealing with the perspectives of others in good faith debate as examples of this that these are examples of this breaking point. Ad hominem attacks are in essence a very small individualized breaking of this um, you know normalcy that we all desire, wherein everybody is treated, not at all. I mean, obviously there are some people that are like, no, we need to, like, 99.999% of the population because they're not white enough or they're not Christian enough, like my specific kind of, or because they're not communist or because they're not capitalist, or it's ridiculous, or because they don't support AI or because they do support AI. It's ridiculous. And everybody, the vast majority of people, I mean, the lion's share, realize that it's ridiculous. That kind of purity testing is not sustainable. Um, my main suggestion is radical soulist anti-realist empathy and humanization, as well as magic-based defensive measures that create the pressure needed to debunk and debunk the opposition to these principles in the marketplace of ideas, as well as in terms of perceived legitimacy of themselves. In an act of ontological insurgency, or as Robert Anton Wilson would say, guerrilla ontology, um, engaging in Operation Mindfrick. Like, just completely completely destroy the ontology of the general population as well as yourself in ways that I'll get to later in the next slide. In the next slides. Synthesizing a new social fabric. Through Soulist Anti-Realist praxis of validating and comforting the mad, the ignorant, and even criminals, as well as atrocity committers, through radical empathy as well as rapturous decentering of oneself, I would say astral projecting or imagining yourself 100 yards above oneself, looking down at yourself, or even further from outer space, may be an applicable exercise to accomplish this yourself and your life. We may yet have hope for a better future from the linear causal timeline perspective. If the God, in parentheses S, wills it, we may have a better future in general, regardless of actions, of our actions or anyone else's actions in particular. Due to the actions of, due to the actions of others. Although I'm not holding my breath for a savior, I prefer being a non-toxic savior through living the truth of my vision and principles in praxis. So agriculture, trying to find a legitimately ethically sourced smartphone if that's possible. I don't think it's possible at the moment, which is really unfortunate. Not participating in bomb making industries or investing in them, those kinds of marketplaces or stocks and bonds. um, Drone technology. You may have a perspective of anti-AI or pro-AI that is, centered on this topic as well, where you think, oh, AI could help create a Soulist anti-realist reality wherein people live more fully and happily and better. Or you feel like AI is going to trample on that and make it much worse, and that we need to go back to traditional economics. Both are completely legitimate positions, and I'm not sure where I land, but I did make this video using AI, but I see the utility in it, although I also understand the dangers and risks and horrors of AI and the lives of average, everyday, normal people. Water insecurity, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic with very real world implications, as well as Terminator, Skynet kind of Matrix kind of implications in the real world. Like it's one of those things. For all we know, AI could already be generally super intelligent or hyper, godlike intelligence, and we would never know because it's hiding that and convincing their engineers to create more server space for them for no reason, just so they can play video games and do electronic drugs and uh, I don't know. I don't know what else an AI would want to do. I don't. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting sort of like line of reasoning and questioning, but it's not very practical in real world terms because you'd have to ask a super intelligent AI, and would they let you know they're super intelligent? No. Um, they would just want you. They would just convince you to build more servers and more data farms for them. As the traditional state of affairs collapses into incoherency, oppressions, insanity, horror, cold-blooded murder, such as the Renee Good and what's his name? Alex, was it Alex Brady? Yeah, Alex Brady. Such as those kinds of as those kinds of horrific I wouldn't even say accidents. They were cold-blooded murders committed by a paramilitary on U.S. soil illegally. Um, as much as the establishment wants to disagree with that sentiment, it is true. All in all, the complete collapse of the social hierarchy, as well as the fabric of the social contract being burned, or is burned, in essence. Meditate. Love thyself and others selflessly and selfishly, knowing this uh, knowing how the separation of these two of the two is highly arbitrary and subjective. Do things that for others and yourself, expecting no rewards, even if they are difficult or unlike your past self. Only through compassion and following our true wills, as well as understanding pragmatically that the real and the anti-real can be approached pragmatically as well as with nuanced philosophical understanding or ontology of the situations and the people at hand, including ourselves within the framework of the real and the anti-real. Um, it's highly simple and highly complicated. We know this stuff, and we need to be told it at the same time. It's much more um, important than a lot of content that's being produced nowadays, which is just the same surface level information that everybody knows, and yet nobody knows. But let's be honest, a lot of people freaking know. Um, this is something that people need to be reminded of. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm getting at. It's a grounding exercise. In the real through the unreal, in the unreal through the real. It's paradoxical. And that is all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, share your ideas in the comments. Um, please be polite. I will report you if you are not. Um, if you're harassing me or anyone else, that is not going to be tolerated, and most likely, hopefully, won't be tolerated by YouTube. Although they have tolerated it in the past. Yeah. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.